I never thought dinner cleanup would end with me eavesdropping on my own betrayal. I'd only stepped out to rinse the dessert forks when I heard it, clear as glass breaking. Ariella's voice floating down the hallway from the living room. "We just need a doctor's note. She'll be declared incompetent soon." I froze. Plate in hand, water still running. My chest squeezed tight like someone had taken my lungs in their fists. I shut off the faucet, moved quietly to the bedroom door, and nudged it open just enough to see their silhouettes on my couch. Ariella leaned forward, elbows on her knees, smirking like it was a joke she'd already rehearsed. Johnny, my son, my only child, just nodded, didn't flinch, didn't laugh, just nodded, like it was a plan already set in motion. They didn't know I was watching, or that the Nest Cam tucked discreetly on the bookshelf had captured the whole thing. April 2nd, 2025. 8:43 p.m. The camera blinked red once before going still again. I noted the timestamp. I stepped back from the door, heart racing. That's when I saw it. My checkbook sitting wide open on the dining table. I hadn't used it in weeks. I walked over slowly, picked it up. 3 checks gone. Pages torn. Numbers I didn't recognize, faintly pressed into the next sheet. Johnny and Ariella's laughter drifted faintly behind me as I scanned the register. Check 4,387, $2,100. Check 4,388, blank. Check $4,389 to $1,750. None of them written in my hand. My body felt too heavy for my bones, like grief had settled under my skin. I slipped back into my room before they noticed, knees trembling, sat down hard on the edge of my bed. My own son, the boy I raised, plotting with his wife to declare me mentally unfit, to take control of my life like I was some lost old woman they were rescuing. No confrontation. Not yet. I just sat there, the checkbook open beside me, my phone already pulling up the Nest Cam footage. My hands didn't shake. Not yet. By the time the sun pushed up over Seaburn Street the next morning, I'd already been awake for hours. I wrapped myself in the cardigan I crocheted back in, 83, dusty rose, thick cotton, loose at the elbows from wear, and stepped onto the porch with my coffee. The air was sharp for April, the kind that teases winter still hanging on. My breath came out in puffs. Steam rose from my mug. The sky was soft, gray-blue. My name is Dolores Marshall, Dita most. I'm 67 years old and I've lived in this house, white colonial, second from the corner, for nearly 4 decades. Retired Child Protective Services caseworker. 32 years of sorting lies from harm, piecing together bruised stories from forgotten mouths. I always thought I'd know when harm was creeping up on me. Turns out, it wears a familiar face. I sat in my porch rocker, knees covered with the same lap blanket my mother stitched when I turned 30. Rocked slow. Tried to breathe through the weight in my chest. Inside my pocket was a letter Johnny wrote me in 2006. Faded, edges curled, folding lines worn smooth. I used to keep it in the recipe box under M for meals he loved, until I moved it to my coat pocket during the pandemic, like I needed proof he loved me once. I read it every so often, mostly when the silence in the house got too loud. "Dear Mom," it started. "Thank you for everything. I know I'm not the easiest, but you've always had my back. I love you. I'll never forget it." That was high school. That was before Ariella. Before jobs lost and stories changed. I sipped my coffee. Bitter. Just how I like it. I'd worked hard to put away $312,000 in retirement. 2 accounts. 1 high-yield savings, 1 certificate at Michigan State Credit Union. My monthly pension is $240. I make it work. Always have. I've lived long enough to understand how far dignity stretches when you've planned ahead. But planning ahead only works if the people around you honor the plan. Last night shifted something. I could feel it. Like a door closing behind me that I didn't even know was open. I still didn't know exactly what they wanted, but I knew the scent of strategy when it drifted through my own damn hallway. And now I had a name for what I was feeling. Not just betrayal, premeditation. For 3 years, my life had a rhythm. On Thursdays, I volunteered at the Zion Unity AME food pantry. Fridays were for sweeping the porch and prepping my garden boxes. Sunday mornings, I greeted neighbors in my church pew and watered the tomatoes before evening service. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. My life. My hands in dirt, my name on sign-in sheets, my name whispered in prayer requests and thank you cards. Johnny and Ariella came for dinner every Thursday, like clockwork. They brought stories that swallowed the room. Johnny with his job search dramatics, Ariella with her mysterious ailments. Low iron. I scribbled one Thursday in the corner of my calendar. Bring spinach. I always cooked enough to send leftovers home with them. It became part of the ritual. Sundays, they came again. Late afternoon, usually with Bree in tow. That little girl was the sunshine between the shadows. 11 now. Sharp as glass. Sweet as peach tea. Grandma, what's your favorite flower? She asked me once, while helping pluck dead heads off the marigolds. I told her daffodils. Told her they come back even when you forget where you planted them. Every week I juggled grocery bags up my porch steps. Half the cart dedicated to their visits. Chicken thighs. Granola bars for Bree. Apple juice for Johnny's heartburn. Ariella only ate natural crackers, the kind that cost $5 a box. Some months I was over by $350 on groceries. It showed up in red ink on my credit card statements from Meijer and Trader Joe's. I'd circle it, promise myself to trim down next week, then double up when Ariella mentioned how Bree's been picky lately. I didn't mind. Not then. You give when it's your people. That's how I was raised. But there were moments that flickered, even back then. A silence when I asked how the job search was going. A shift in Ariella's voice when she asked if I'd consider adding her to my emergency contacts. Back then, I brushed it off. I wanted them to feel safe here. I wanted to be the house that always had food on the table and the porch light on. Deacon Harris would smile and say, "Dolores, you've got a generous spirit," every time he saw me sliding an extra loaf of bread into the pantry box at church. He'd hand me another receipt and say, "Your reward's already in motion." I believed that. I still do. But now I know. Generosity without boundaries isn't love. It's erosion. The first time Ariella handed me Bree, she said, "You're better with her than I am." I had Bree on my hip and tears in my eyes. She was 2. Johnny had just lost his job. That was 2021. They were living out in Warren then, in a rental that flooded every time it rained. When the job disappeared, so did the rent money. Johnny called me, voice hoarse, said, "Mom, we're drowning." I didn't hesitate. I walked into KeyBank on Lafayette the next morning and wired $1,800 to their landlord. "Are you sure?" Melanie Watkins, the teller, asked. She'd known me from back when I cashed checks in person. She always wore soft mauve nail polish and looked me straight in the eye. "Yes," I said. "They're my kids." That was the first of many transfers. Over the next 5 months, I paid their mortgage 5 times, $1,720 each, until Ariella found a daycare job she said was temporary, and Johnny started delivering for DoorDash in his beat-up Nissan. I co-signed on their first house in early 2022, Brick Ranch off Outer Drive. Nothing fancy, but Ariella posted the front door on Instagram with a caption that read, "First keys, first future." I didn't even mind she didn't tag me. I just wanted them stable. When Ariella's gallbladder flared that summer, I sat in the ER with Bree while Johnny signed forms. I paid for the follow-up prescriptions, $64. She texted me, "You're a godsend." I saved it. Start it. That fall, I found Johnny sitting at my kitchen table in tears. He was out of work again. "I feel like a failure, Ma." His shoulders shook. I rubbed his back, made him tea, and slid my checkbook across the table. $11,780. That's what it added up to, between mortgages, co-signing fees, groceries, furniture, and the emergency envelope I kept in the junk drawer, which disappeared twice under the heading, "Just until Friday," and the babysitting. Years of after-school pickups, library afternoons, math homework, and macaroni dinners while Ariella went to, quote, evening trainings. They trusted me with Bree, with their bills, with their breakdowns. I was the constant they leaned on like a cane they didn't know they were grinding into the floorboards. And I held them. Held them so long I didn't realize my own back had started to bow. I believed that when you raise someone, you raise their safety net too. But no one tells you what happens when your net becomes their trapdoor. On April 5th, long after the house went still, I sat at my bedroom desk with the lamp turned low and the air thick with the smell of lemon balm from the candle I keep by the window. My spiral notebook sat open in front of me. I'd avoided this task for too long. I turned to a fresh page and wrote across the top in block letters what I gave. Then I started tallying, line by line, category by category. Not guesses, just the facts. Mortgage payments, 2021, 2022, $1,720 times 5 equals $8,600. Furniture, Westermina, Progens $20. Sofa bed frame crib in 2020. Crib in 2020. Crib in 2020. Westermina 1,000. Birthdays, anniversaries, new tires. Looked at the number again. Total, $38,920. Almost 40 grand. 4 times my annual pension. Gone. Screenshots backed up the numbers. Cash App requests from Ariella. Hey D, can you spot us $120 for Bree's camp deposit? I'll pay you Friday. Phone bill hit early. Can you cover it and we'll transfer tomorrow? They never transferred tomorrow. In the back of my drawer was a zip-top envelope stuffed with printed bank statements. I'd started saving them in 2023, more out of habit than suspicion. Page after page, the charges repeated. Zelle to M&L Holdings. Cash withdrawals I didn't remember authorizing. I cross-referenced every outgoing dollar with what I remembered giving. The rest, my foggy memory filled in with highlighted gaps. My hands were steady. No tears this time. Just clarity. This wasn't love. It was bookkeeping disguised as affection. And I'd signed every invisible invoice with a hope I didn't know I was hemorrhaging. I clicked my phone on, opened my gallery, and took photos of every page. I saved them to my Google Drive under a folder called Proof April. Then I backed it up to a flash drive I'd labeled in red Sharpie, Bree's folder. I slid the notebook into my bottom drawer. Something inside me clicked. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something colder. Something precise. I'd spent 5 years thinking my generosity was a gift, but they'd treated it like income. It was a quiet Sunday in February, when Ariella brought over a peach cobbler and a form. She was wearing that dusty pink sweater, soft, oversized, the kind that made her look gentler than she ever was. We'd just finished dinner. Bree was on the rug, flipping through a highlights magazine, and Ariella leaned in close over her second helping of cobbler. "Dee, I've been meaning to ask," she said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "Would you mind signing this? It's just a little power of convenience thing. Nothing major." I frowned. "What's that mean?" she smiled. The kind of smile you wear when you've rehearsed. "It's like a backup, in case you're out of town or sick or something. Just for the bank, so I can move money around for bills if needed. Johnny and I worry about you, you know." I looked down. The form had a notary stamp already on it. UPS Store, 7th and Gratiot, dated 2 days earlier. "You already had it notarized?" "Oh, I pre-filled the basics. Curtis is a friend. I told him we'd swing by again once you signed." I felt a strange pulse in my temples, but I didn't say no. I told myself it was harmless. I didn't want to make it a thing. Ariella could be sensitive. She tapped the pen against the table, like it was casual. I signed. I shouldn't have. It wasn't until hours later, after they left, after the dishes were rinsed and Bree's coat still hung on the hallway hook, that I replayed it all, notarized in advance. No copies left for me. No explanation of what, exactly, she could now do. That night I lay awake, cobbler heavy in my gut. I kept seeing her eyes. Too bright, too fixed. I remembered how she'd once asked me, during a trip to CVS, "What's your PIN again, Dee? I'll grab the prescriptions while you check the snacks." That had been last fall. I told her. I didn't think twice. God help me. I dug through the kitchen drawer and found the receipt from the UPS store. A single line. POA notarization minus $15. That was it. I tucked it inside my ledger, circled the date, February 9th, 2025. The thing about small betrayals is they don't feel like betrayal when you're still busy calling them family. I had spent so many years trying to be gracious that I'd stopped expecting transparency. I'd confused being accommodating with being protected. By the time I went to bed, I knew what I should have done. But I also knew it wouldn't be the last ask. March 22nd started like most Saturdays. Quiet, slow-moving, with my joints warning me about the weather before the forecast did. I took the bus down to the Rite Aid on Mack Avenue to pick up my blood pressure meds and a birthday card for Deacon Harris. By the time I reached the register, my basket had just 3 items: Lisinopril, a stick of lip balm, and a card with blue flowers on it that read, "You've always been a steady hand." I tapped my debit card. Declined. I tried again. Same message. The cashier, a young girl with tired eyes and long acrylics, looked at me like I might crumble. "Do you want to try another card, ma'am?" "No," I said, swallowing the flush of embarrassment. "I'll call the bank." I stepped outside into the cold, with my phone already ringing. I got Cassandra at Huntington Bank. A calm voice with fast fingers. After a brief security check, she said, "Mrs. Marshall, I'm seeing multiple Zelle transfers from your account yesterday and today. 4, actually." "To who?" "One moment. M&L Holdings. Do you recognize that name?" My stomach turned. "No. The total is $2,400. Want me to flag them?" "Yes, please. And lock the card. I'll also recommend changing your online login and checking if your POA has access." There it was. The phrase. I didn't even remember giving Johnny or Ariella the online credentials, but then again, I remembered Ariella sitting beside me last month while I logged in to pay my DTE bill. She'd watched me type everything. I hung up, walked straight to the bench outside the CVS, and sat there while Detroit moved around me. I texted Johnny. My card was declined. "Did you take anything from my account?" 3 dots. Then, Johnny. "Must be a glitch. I'll look into it. Want me to take over your bills again? That way nothing gets missed." I didn't reply. My hands were already searching my email, scanning for login attempts. Nothing yet. Just the ache. Just that low, gnawing ache that comes when you realize someone's been standing in your pantry long enough to know where you hide the good snacks. When I got home, I sat at my desk and wrote down the numbers. $2,400 gone, labeled M and L. Same initials that used to stand for Johnny and Ariella in my photo albums. I made a copy of the transactions and added them to the Proof April folder. I looked at the drawer with my checkbook in it. I locked it. I first saw the notice flapping on my front door like a flag of war. April 6th. The wind off the river was sharp, cutting between the bricks of my porch like it had somewhere to be. I opened the storm door and there it was. Bold red letters across the top. Delinquent property taxes. Final notice before foreclosure. My eyes scanned the words like I was reading a foreign language. I blinked. Once, then again. $4,210 overdue. I paid those taxes in January. I remember writing the check. I even remember the song playing on the radio while I did it. Aretha's Ain't No Way. But the envelope in my hand said otherwise. I stepped back inside, the air suddenly too still. My phone buzzed. I called Johnny. He answered fast, too fast. "Hey, Ma, everything okay?" "No," I said, each word clipped. "I just got a foreclosure warning on the house." A pause. Then his voice went gentle, like he was speaking to a child. "Oh, that. You must have forgotten you told us we could handle that stuff this year. Remember? Around tax time?" "I don't remember that." "Well," he said, drawing it out like he was stalling, "we assumed you didn't mind. We paid a few things already for you. Just haven't gotten to that one yet." I hung up without another word. I walked straight to my kitchen drawer and pulled out the manila envelope where I keep all tax confirmations. Nothing. No January receipt. No cleared check image. They hadn't just missed the payment. They'd prevented it. I called the city office. Mrs. Fenton, the woman who always answers with a tired Detroit rasp, confirmed it. "No payment received for your parcel this year, Miss Marshall. That's why you got the notice." When I asked for a copy of the record, she emailed it within the hour. I printed it and tucked it into the Proof April folder. My hands didn't shake. Not this time. That afternoon, I walked 3 houses down to Gail Pearson's place. She's our HOA treasurer. Keeps every receipt since 1996 and treats porch gossip like sacred scripture. She opened her door in house slippers and a silk head wrap. "Dee, what's wrong?" I handed her the notice. She didn't blink. "They're trying to make you look unstable," she said. "I've seen this before. You call me before you sign anything else you hear." "I hear." I walked home slow, the letter folded in my pocket, the cold biting at my knuckles. No one was going to take this house from me. Not without a fight. April 7th. Dinner was pot roast and roasted carrots. The kind Johnny always said reminded him of his childhood. I made it anyway. They arrived just after 6. Ariella smiling too wide, Johnny quiet but polished. Button-down shirt, no cap. The air between them was tight, like they were bracing for impact, but they didn't know I'd already seen the wreckage. I waited until Bree went upstairs with her tablet. The dishes were still warm in the sink when I sat down again and laid the foreclosure letter on the table. Ariella blinked. "What's this?" "I found this on my door yesterday. From the city." Johnny reached for it, read quickly. "Ma, we told you. We're handling things." "You told me after the fact," I said calmly. "This is my house. My name's still on everything." Ariella's voice shifted, soft, patronizing. "Dee, you've been forgetting a lot lately. We just didn't want to stress you out. I haven't forgotten anything that matters." Her smile didn't move, but her hand reached into her tote bag. "That's why we brought this," she said. She pulled out a folded brochure. I recognized the font before the words. Understanding adult guardianship, protecting your loved one. She slid it across the table like a peace offering. Just something to read, no pressure. I didn't touch it. Johnny leaned forward. "We've been thinking maybe it's time to get you evaluated. Just to make sure everything's okay." I stared at him. My son. The same boy who used to panic if I didn't show up at school pickup by 3:15. Now he was suggesting, with eerie calm, that I might be unfit to manage my own life. The room felt colder than it was. I said nothing. Just watched Ariella gather the plates, humming a tune like we were hosting a normal family dinner. Johnny glanced up the stairs, then back to me. "Think about it," he said. "It'd be temporary, just until we're sure." From the hallway, I saw Bree standing in the shadows, small, silent, watching. She didn't say a word, but her eyes followed every movement Ariella made, every lie folded into a smile. I waited until they left, waited until the front door clicked, and their car reversed down the driveway. Then I sat at the table alone and picked up the brochure. On the last page, scribbled in pen, was a note. "Johnny and Ariella to manage decisions if diagnosed. See Kirkland filing." They weren't just planning. They'd already filed the first draft. April 8th, 10:07 p.m. I was folding towels when I heard a soft knock on Bree's door. "Grandma," she whispered. "Can I show you something?" She was sitting cross-legged on her rug, iPad glowing in her lap, her face taut like she was holding something too big for her little body. They were talking in the kitchen when they thought I was asleep. She turned the screen toward me. It was a screenshot, a text thread. Ariella. She's already forgetting things. Once we get the doc on board, we file conservator papers. Other number. How long do you think? Ariella. Soon. Her memory's already fading. I'll push the eval next week. I read it twice. Bree, I said carefully, when did you take this? Last night, she whispered. I wasn't supposed to see. But they were saying stuff like you wouldn't remember. Like it was already done. I sat back on my heels. Ariella burst in 10 minutes later. The door flung open hard enough to shake the picture frames. Her face, tight, trembling, voice sharp. That's not yours to show, Brianna. I stood between them before she could take another step. It's mine now, I said, holding up the iPad. Her breath hitched. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand more than you think. Her gaze darted to Bree, who backed into the corner, arms crossed tight. Go to bed, I told her gently. You did nothing wrong. Ariella's tone shifted instantly, like someone flicked a switch. She softened her voice. Dee, you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe this is all getting mixed up. Don't gaslight me, I snapped. Not in my house. Her mouth opened, closed. Johnny's voice called from downstairs. Everything okay? We're fine, she said through her teeth, still staring me down. When she left, I locked Bree's door from the inside. She curled up under her blanket, iPad tucked beneath her pillow. They talk like you're already gone, she said into the dark. I sat beside her and brushed the hair from her face. Let them talk, I said. I'm still here. Downstairs, the hallway lights flickered. I didn't move. I just stared at the door until I heard Ariella's footsteps recede. Then I tiptoed back to my room, opened the file folder, added the screenshot. Then I changed the Wi-Fi password. Not for them. For me. For the first time in months, I slept with my door locked. April 10th. I wore my gray wool coat, the one I usually save for church funerals or chilly October weddings, but this morning wasn't about mourning. It was about reclaiming. I caught the number 8 bus downtown, the wind off the Detroit River, slicing between the buildings like it had a vendetta. I got off at Lafayette and walked 2 blocks to a plain brick building tucked between a dry cleaner and a nail salon. Kirkland Legal, Suite 202. I buzzed in. Raymond Kirkland looked nothing like I imagined. Late 30s, caramel-skinned, crisp navy suit, and an expression that said, "Try me." His assistant, a young woman named Vanessa, handed me a clipboard as I took a seat across from his desk. I told him everything. The POA form Ariella had slipped across my table. The missing tax payment, the Zelle transfers, the guardianship pamphlet, the screenshot, the Nest Cam footage. Yes, I had it downloaded to a thumb drive. Labeled, time-stamped. Raymond nodded through every word, his pen moving quick, eyes sharper than glass. They're setting a stage, he said, but they underestimated the lead actress. That made me smile, just a little. He drafted 2 documents while I sat there. Revocation of power of attorney, immediate. Account freeze request for both my bank and brokerage firms. We filed the revocation with Wayne County that same afternoon. I paid the $30 filing fee in cash. I watched him fax it to KeyBank, Huntington, and Michigan State Credit Union. New PINs, new passwords, new account access. Ariella was locked out by dinner time. My phone buzzed the moment we left the courthouse. Johnny, you're making a mistake, Mom. You're confused. Call me back, please. I didn't reply. Raymond glanced at the screen. They're already panicking. We walked 2 more blocks to a notary, had every document sealed and stamped. Vanessa made 2 extra copies, one for me, one for his file. I tucked mine into the pocket of my coat like a loaded weapon. That night, I ate a grilled cheese and tomato soup by myself at the kitchen table. Bree's school photos stared at me from the fridge. Her gap-toothed grin reminded me why I wasn't backing down. At 10:03 p.m., I deleted Ariella's biometric access from my smart home app. No more garage code. No more thermostat control. No more late-night entries. This house was mine again. No warning. No discussion. Just a clean, silent shutout. Let them guess what door would lock next. April 11th. The city was gray and sluggish, the kind of day where Detroit feels like it's holding its breath. I packed a tote bag with my spiral ledger, bank statements, the thumb drive with Nest Cam footage, and Bree's iPad screenshots. Everything. Then I caught the Woodward bus straight to the Detroit Public Library, main branch. 5th floor. Quiet corner. The archive computers. Tamika, the tech helper, spotted me before I even asked. She wore locks pulled high, and gold hoops big enough to swing through. "You need scan or cloud backup?" she asked, already logging me in. "Both," I said. "And encryption if you've got it." She whistled. "You not playing today?" "No," I said. "I'm really not." Over the next 2 hours, we scanned everything. 37 pages from my ledger, full check images from KeyBank Cell, logs from Huntington City of Detroit, tax warnings, the guardianship pamphlet with Scribble's POA form from February 9, 2025. Ariella's incriminating text screenshots, Nest Cam clip, April 2nd, 8:43 p.m. She'll be declared incompetent soon. Tamika helped me upload it all to a private Google Drive folder. I named it DM Proof and set it to private access with two-factor authentication. She set up backup storage in Proton Drive for good measure. We encrypted the folder with a passphrase, Bridafadil 83, easy for me to remember. Impossible for anyone else. Just before I logged out, my phone buzzed again. Login attempt detected device. Unknown location. Hamtramck. MI time. 1:13 p.m. I didn't even blink. Ariella was trying to get in. I tapped deny and then report. Back at the desk, Tamika raised an eyebrow. Someone digging where they shouldn't? Not anymore. She smiled. You remind me of my grandma. Always had a paper trail before the world even asked for it. Paper keeps the story straight, I said. She printed me 2 hard copies of everything and helped me seal them in a labeled envelope. Dolores Marshall, April backup. I slid it into my bag and stood slowly. Before I left, I wrote one more thing on the inside flap of my notebook. They tried to erase me with a whisper. I answered with paper. April 12th. Rain slicked the sidewalks outside Zion Unity AME, turning the red bricks dark and glistening. The fellowship hall smelled like lemon oil and folding chairs. I'd reserved the room under the name Unity Planning Circle. Nobody needed to know, yet, what it was really for. At 3:15 p.m., they arrived one by one. Pastor Joel Harmon came first, long cardigan swaying, tablet in one hand, concern in the other. She hugged me like I'd already told her everything. "You've got that look," she whispered, "the one women get before the truth walks into the light." Then Gail Pearson, HOA chair, clipboard under arm, glasses hanging from a chain. She'd been HOA since '96 and never forgot a face or a deed. Finally, Raymond Kirkland walked in, briefcase in hand, clean-shaven and sharp like always. We sat in a semicircle around the folding table. I placed a copy of my April backup envelope in the center. "I'm not crazy," I said. "I'm not confused. But they are counting on the world believing I am." Raymond nodded. "Not anymore." I started from the beginning. Showed the screenshots, played the Nest Cam clip, flipped through the ledger. Every page. Every proof. Pastor Joelle let out a soft curse under her breath when she read Ariella's text about the conservatorship filing. "This is spiritual theft," she murmured. "They're trying to rob your name while you're still breathing." Gail skimmed the HOA policies, then looked up. "Your name is the only one tied to the deed. No transfer requests. No secondary signers. This is your house. Legally. Entirely." Raymond added, We've submitted fraud documentation to all financial institutions, and I've opened a protective oversight file with Wayne County Probate. Nothing they file now will hold. We created a shared Google folder on Pastor Joel's church account, read-only access, labeled it Truth and Trust. I gave them view access to everything. They wouldn't be able to change a word. Before we left, I passed around a fraud worksheet from Raymond's office. Pastor Joel signed as witness, Gail as neighbor, Raymond as counsel. The weight of solitude began to lift. They saw me. More importantly, they believed me. Before they left, Bree called my phone. "Grandma, they're mad," she whispered. "I heard Daddy say you're building a case." I walked to the church window, looked out at the darkening sky. "They're right," I said gently. "I am." I ended the call and slid my phone into my purse. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about proving I had never needed saving. Just the space to speak, and someone willing to hear. April 13th started crisp and bright, as if Detroit was giving me permission to draw a hard line. By noon, I'd typed 2 letters at my dining room table, one addressed to Johnny, one to Ariella. Certified. Tracked. No emotion, just facts. To Johnny and Ariella Marshall. As of April 10th, 2025, your access to any and all of my financial accounts, property, or personal data has been revoked. The power of attorney signed February 9, 2025, has been legally rescinded and filed with Wayne County Probate Court. Do not attempt to access my accounts, mail, property, or digital information. Further contact must be directed to my legal counsel, Raymond Kirkland, Esquire. Any attempts to alter or interfere with my legal or medical rights will be documented and responded to accordingly. This is not a conversation. It is a boundary. I signed both in black ink, slid them into envelopes, included copies of the official revocation, the tax records, and a notarized witness statement from Pastor Joel. At 1:47 p.m., I dropped them into the blue USPS mailbox at the corner of Van Dyke and Kercheval. The slot squealed as it accepted the weight. I kept both tracking receipts tucked in my cardigan, one for each hand that had tried to erase me. By 3 p.m., Raymond had filed a formal notification with Ariella's notary service, revocation on file, signature rights rescinded. I texted him a thumbs up. He replied with a period. That night, I didn't cook. I didn't sweep. I didn't wait for a knock. Instead, I sat in the front room, phone charging beside me, watching the late news when a ping lit my screen. Facebook post. Ariella's page. Pray for my MIL's mind. We're all just trying to do what's best. Sometimes love is complicated. Dozens of likes. A few comments from cousins I hadn't seen in years. One from Johnny. We're doing our best. I didn't comment. I screenshotted the post and filed it in DM proof. Then I forwarded it to Raymond with a subject line, performative concern. Pastor Joel called just before bed. "You're holding steady?" she asked. "I'm clean and clear," I said. They wanted quiet control. I'm choosing loud protection. She hummed her approval. "Let me know when you're ready for the next step. People need to see what you've seen." "I will," I said. And I meant it. Because this wasn't about making a scene. It was about ending theirs. April 14th, 3:15 p.m. I was pruning the daffodils by the fence when I heard the crunch of gravel on my driveway. Their silver Subaru. Doors slammed. I straightened up, wiped my gloves on my apron, and stayed by the garden. My hands didn't tremble. Johnny walked up first, holding a clipboard. Ariella was a step behind, carrying a folder. I noticed a notary trailing them, a woman in a cheap black blazer, eyes scanning everything like she wanted to be anywhere else. "Mom," Johnny began, too loudly. "We brought something that can fix all this. You've been stressed. We get it. We just want peace." Ariella pulled out the folder. "It's a living trust," she said smoothly, like she was selling me vinyl siding. "We just need you to sign. You'll still live here, of course. We just manage things, officially. It's easier for everyone." I tilted my head. "Is that so?" The notary stepped forward. Just need a signature, ma'am. Won't take long. I laughed. Not loudly. Just enough to show them I was done pretending to be confused. Let me show you something, I said. I pulled out my phone and tapped record. The camera blinked red as I held it steady, framing their faces. Johnny and Ariella Marshall attempting to coerce me into signing away my home. April 14th, 2025, 3:16 p.m. No consent given. All rights retained. Ariella's smile cracked. Johnny reached for the clipboard, but I stepped back. That's enough, I said. You're trespassing. Ariella's voice rose, brittle and high. We're your family. We're just trying to help. A car rolled up behind them. Detroit PD. Officer Bell, from the 7th Precinct, stepped out. Older sister with no patience for nonsense. I got your call, Ms. Marshall, she said. They still here? Still here, I said, steady. Officer Bell walked up to Johnny and Ariella. You two need to go. Now. This is documented. She's filed the appropriate paperwork. The notary backed away first. I wasn't told, she mumbled, retreating. Johnny stood still, face red, fists balled. Ariella whispered something sharp behind clenched teeth. You need to leave now, Officer Bell said again, this time resting a hand near her holster. Or I'll write you both up for trespass. They turned. Ariella's eyes burned. Johnny wouldn't look at me. They drove off. No words. I stopped the recording, saved it, uploaded it to DM Proof. Then I picked up the torn trust document they'd dropped in the rush and fed it through my paper shredder. Slowly, evenly. This house still belonged to me. And now the street knew it. April 16th. Rain had turned the pavement shiny, but by evening, the Lafayette Co-op boardroom was dry, warm, and full. Rows of metal chairs lined the room, filled with neighbors, church members, and HOA folks. The ones who'd watched my porch light glow for decades. The ones who'd nodded when I walked by with my grocery bags. Today, they were here for something more. At 5:58 p.m., Pastor Joel placed a stack of handouts on the table near the door. Raymond stood by the whiteboard, markers in hand. Gail arranged printouts in tidy rows. I walked in holding the envelope marked DM Proof. Raymond clicked the remote. A screen lit up behind him. Projector balanced on a cart like this was Sunday school and courtroom combined. Thank you for coming, I said, voice clear. Some of you know parts of what's been happening. Tonight, I'm laying it bare. At 6 p.m. sharp, we began. Slide 1. A timeline. February 9. POA, signed under false pretense, March 22nd. $2,400 drained via unauthorized Zelle transfers April 2nd. Nest Cam audio. She'll be declared incompetent soon. April 6th. Foreclosure notice for unpaid $4,210. Tax April 8th. Texts. Her memory's already fading. April 10th. POA revoked. Accounts frozen April 14th. Johnny and Ariella attempt coercion with notary slide 2. Ariella's texts. Planning conservatorship Zelle logs labeled M&L Holdings, guardianship pamphlet with scribbles, Facebook post. Pray for my MIL's mind. Slide 3. Chart of support over 4 years. $38,920. Groceries. Mortgage payments. Co-signed loans. Medical. School costs. Everything I gave while they plotted. Gasps moved through the room like wind. Slide 4. PDF of POA revocation. Signed, stamped, filed. Raymond explained every line. Slide 5. Witness statements. Pastor Joel, Gail, and Dr. Hensley from Zion's Health Clinic. Ms. Marshall shows no signs of cognitive decline. Dated. Sealed. Then I stepped forward. I gave, I said, because I loved. And they took, because they assumed I couldn't fight. I held up the final folder. But I documented. And tonight, I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm establishing truth. At 6:39 p.m., Johnny and Ariella arrived. Late. Ariella's eyes darted across the room. Johnny looked at Raymond, then at the screen. They hadn't expected this. Pastor Joel rose. "We've heard the truth, and the community has the right to protect one of its own." Applause broke out. Brief. Fierce. Ariella muttered, "You're turning everyone against us." I met her eyes. "No, you did that. I just brought the receipts." 6:42 p.m. Same room. Same screen. The tension now was sharp enough to cut cloth. Raymond stepped up to the projector and clicked to the final slide. Affidavits. 3 statements. He said calmly, sworn and signed. First, Drive Ariella Hensley, Zion Unity's community doctor. Ms. Dolores Marshall displays no medical or cognitive deficits indicative of dementia or impairment. She is of sound mind and capable of managing her affairs. Notarized April 9, 2025. Second, Melanie Watkins from KeyBank. I warned Ms. Marshall twice in 2022 about irregular transfers. In 2025, she reported unauthorized Zelle activity linked to her revoked POA. Notarized April 11, 2025. Third, Deacon Vernon Paul, church elder. I have known Ms. Marshall for 31 years. I have seen no decline in her mental faculties. Her recent decisions reflect prudence, not confusion. Notarized April 12, 2025. Raymond stepped aside. All of these are on record, and more are being compiled. He clicked again. Up came the Wayne County Court stamp, revocation of POA. Filed April 10, 2025. Accepted and enforceable. Then the police incident log, April 14, 3:16 p.m. Officer Bell. Trespass warning. Johnny and Ariella's names. Right there. In bold. I stood. "My name is Dolores Marshall," I said, "and I have spent my life raising a family, serving my community, and doing the paperwork most folks avoid." I held up my spiral notebook. "I don't confuse. I don't forget. I record." Ariella stood, voice shrill. "This is a setup. You're twisting everything. We were just trying to help." Johnny added, "You're making us look like criminals." I didn't blink. "I didn't make you do anything. You did this yourselves." Pastor Joel rose again. "The board has seen and validated these documents. Ms. Marshall's ownership is intact. Her legal rights are restored, and her dignity is non-negotiable." The room applauded. Some stood. Ariella looked around, expecting someone to defend her. No one did. Gail approached them calmly. "You are no longer welcome in this community's meetings. Any further interference will be treated as harassment." Johnny opened his mouth, closed it. Raymond passed me a single-page form. A final line. No contact directive. Witness signed, time-stamped, certified. I added my signature at the bottom. Ariella stormed out. Johnny followed. I didn't turn to watch. Instead, I sat back straight, shoulders firm. The screen faded to black. But nothing about me was fading. April 17th, 9:15 a.m. The light hit my porch just right. Slanted, gold, quiet. The same way it used to when Bree was little, blowing bubbles while Johnny grilled and Ariella laughed like we were all on the same team. Only now, I stood with a locksmith beside me, drilling out the past. The old deadbolt clattered to the floor. He handed me a new set of keys, polished brass, cold in my palm. I held them tight. "Want to test it?" he asked. I nodded. The new key slid in smooth, clicked into place like it had been waiting. I opened the door to my house. My house. Inside, I removed the smart lock app from every device, changed the Wi-Fi name to Daffodil Network, and created a new admin password. Security cameras updated. Shared access revoked. Utilities re-registered to my name only. The thermostat, the lights, even the garage opener reset. I was done living with ghosts in the wires. At 10:12 a.m., a knock. Raymond, sharp as always, holding a thick envelope and a folded document. "Here's your amended estate plan," he said. "Bree's name is officially included as contingent beneficiary. Ariella and Johnny are removed entirely." I signed the final page. "Witnessed. Filed." He added, "And a fraud investigation has been initiated. Financial mismanagement under revoked POA. Banks cooperating." That train has left the station. "Good," I said. Raymond looked out at the porch. "Want me to stay a bit?" "No," I said. "I've got something to finish." He nodded once and left. A minute later, Bree's school bus turned the corner. She spotted me from the steps and ran down the walk, backpack bouncing. I met her halfway, kneeling to eye level. "You still want your own key?" I asked. She blinked. "Really?" I pressed the small brass copy into her palm. "Don't lose it," I whispered. "But if you do, don't worry. This house remembers who belongs." She threw her arms around me before I could finish the thought. Inside, I made grilled cheese. She flipped through her math homework, while I folded Raymond's documents into my file cabinet. At 11:07 a.m., my phone buzzed. Ring cam alert. 2 figures at the curb. Johnny and Ariella, holding papers, watching the door they no longer controlled. I watched them from my phone. Silent. Remote. A witness, not a subject. The footage saved automatically to DM-proof. I never opened the door. Let them stand there in the wind with the weight of consequence settling in. They'd declared me gone. They were wrong. I wasn't erased. I was restored. One daffodil bloomed on the porch beside the new lock. Yellow, whole, and facing forward.